funny.
And now, Deborah Kobylt live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our show today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Look who's joining me live. Don McLean. Oh my gosh. Of American Pie fame and everything else. And now actually that song is in like the latest hit movie, Black Widow. Gosh, Don, there's so much to talk to you about. I don't even know where to begin, but welcome. How about that?
Well, thanks for having me. I like talking to you, so we'll have a good time.
Yeah, I really did. I interviewed you recently, and when I did some research on you, and I do research on everybody, right? Um, as I was going through each of your lyrics, what really was impressed upon me is I looked at you more like a poet. I really did. And then when I close my eyes and I listen to you sing your poetry, um, it almost makes me cry. I mean, it's just so soulful. Where does that come from?
A world of pain
Mm,
is where it comes from, one sort or another. And I guess I don't know if I think if whatever I did or do resonates with people, it's because people are in a world of pain also, in their own way, and they just either decide they're not going to let it get them down, or they do let it get them down. But nonetheless, um, I found that there's been a simpatico with me and my songs and most people because I think we're all struggling in our own way and putting on a good face, and you can't know what a person's going through by the act that they put on. So, but I think you're always trying to get past certain things and get into a sunnier place and a better place, and so I hope the music helps do that.
Did you feel like that even as a kid? Because I know you lost your dad at a young age, at the age of 15.
Well, no,
Um,
I never felt that kind of pain until after my father passed away. Prior to that, there was a different kind of pain, which was um, being in a house of adults and being a little child and having asthma, and staying home a lot and sort of being in my own little world. So that was another kind of pain. But then when he died, it was really, I was a grown up when I was 15. I was making the decisions. My mother wasn't really. And
mm,
so but I just accept things as they come along in life. I've had great things happen to me, and I've had some painful things. What's the big deal? It happens.
yeah, it's, I guess, how we get through it. And I'm going
Yeah,
to guess, right?
exactly how we get through it. I mean, you're going to go over and go postal? Are you going to be a drug addict? Are you going to hang yourself? Or are you going to write some songs? And I always love the idea of communicating with people and singing for them. And so music is my salvation. It's always something I have, no matter what's going on. I have that. I can write. I have a new album actually. It's going to come out this year of all new songs, and so I've been working a lot during this pandemic, doing a lot of different things that I've wanted to do, but I've always been on the road so much that I didn't have the chance to get around to doing these things. I'm doing them now, and
So
so it's been great.
the new music that you're writing, you're going to be performing that, right, as well, because you're going on
Yeah.
tour.
Yes, I'm going to. I've already done a couple of shows with the band, and we did 3 or 4 or 5 new of the new songs, and very nice. I like the response. It felt like a new show, because you've got new stuff, new things to say.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the Weavers, shall we? For those people who
Oh,
have
sure.
no idea what I'm talking about, would you tell them? Would you
Yeah,
tell
well,
them?
the Weavers were a folk group. They were the first folk group, or they were the greatest folk group ever. And they had many, many hit records. This is way before Peter Paul and Mary and everybody, Kingston Trio. This was like 1948, and they grew out of a ragtag group of left-wing guys and gals called the Almanac Singers, and they were in the 1940s during the war years, and they had hits like Irene Goodnight, Whim Away, the Rock Island Line, the Midnight Special, many, many others. Guantanamera, the Hammer Song, they wrote that song. This Land Is Your Land was written for them by Woody Guthrie. So they were the greatest group ever, and they brought to mainstream media and to such as it was back in 1948, 1950, songs by Leadbelly, Hughie Ledbetter, and Woody Guthrie, who later became gargantuous legends. But the Weavers brought their music, put it on the charts. So Irene Goodnight was written by Hughie Ledbetter. Leadbelly was called King of the 12-string guitar, and This Land Is Your Land, of course, was Woody Guthrie, and they had a number of other Woody Guthrie hits. So Long It's Been Good to Know You. So
Yeah, but
anyway, they did.
what's really cool is, didn't you reach out to one of them when you were a
Yeah.
kid?
Well, I had this fantasy world that I was in. I was in on my own, basically, making up my own fantasies. I didn't have a brother or a sister that was around. I had a sister, but she was 15 years older than I was, so
Oh
she
wow.
was like an adult. And by the time I was 7 or 8, she was 22, 23 years old. She'd left home, and so I would invent what I wanted to do. When I discovered music and the guitar and the banjo, and songs and all this stuff. It all melded together. The old-fashioned pop music, the rock and roll that I loved was Elvis Presley or Buddy Holly or whatever, and then the folk music that I was learning about and fascinated with, and it all came together in perfectly for me. I was the perfect guy for this to happen to because I played the guitar, I looked nice, I sang right, and all of a sudden these little nightclubs started opening up, in the 60s, and you could make $200 or $300, which is a lot of money in those days, and a lot of really bad musicians would play these places because they were folk singers. They were terrible. So I was terrible too, but it was a place to learn, how to be on stage. And I was an opening act for many years at the Bitter End and the Troubadour out in California and all over the country. So I would be the first or second guy to go on. But yeah, around 1960, I started reading about the Weavers, and I realized that they all lived in New York City. So one day I said, you know what? It's a little light went off. I'm going to call one of them. I'm going to see if I can find them in the directory. I had to call the operator. In those days, you had to call the operator. And I said, do you have a man named Fred Hellerman listed in Manhattan? Yes, we do. And I said, well, could you please put his call through or give me his number, whatever. She gave me the number and put it through for me. The operator did a lot for you in those days. And there he answers the phone. So I'm talking to this guy who I've loved his singing and I loved his guitar playing. And we became lifelong friends. We stayed friends till he died. In fact, I would still be talking to him on the phone when he was like almost 90. And he was still full of wonderful insights.
Mental, and you actually getting your first agent. How did that work?
That is a very unusual story. I don't know if you could even believe this would happen. But I had an uncle who was a silk importer and in the rag trade in New York, the fashion. And his partner was a musician. And I had read that the manager of the Weavers and also of Judy Collins and Alan Arkin and a bunch of other very fine artists named Harold Leventhal had a brother who was in the girdle business. And so I made a tape in my high school, empty high school room where I had a good echo. of all my songs. I worked on it all day. They let me go into school on a Saturday when nobody was there. And I sent the tape. I gave the tape to my uncle, and I said, "Could you give it to your partner, and maybe he could give it to Harold Leventhal's brother?" Well, that's the last I heard of. He said, "Yes, I'll do that. We'll do that." So a year and a half later, maybe 2 years later, I had quit school. I'd gotten out of high school, gone to college, decided I didn't want to be in college. I was now trying to be on the road and get, some sort of way to get into show business. I got a call from Harold Leventhal's office that said they'd heard this tape and they wanted to manage me. Can you believe that?
Well, wait a minute. Your mother got the call, didn't she?
Yeah, my mother got the call. Yeah, she said, "It's Harold Leventhal's office." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, he wants to talk to you." So they
Oh.
said, "Come in and talk to us." So I had to get on the train and go into Harold's office, and I met Alan Arkin when I was there. He was having a
Ah.
lunch. He started out as a folk artist in the Terriers, a group called the Terriers, and then later on was a solo folk singer and a songwriter, and then he worked his way into comedy and into movies, and all with Harold Leventhal's help because he would bankroll a lot of these movies. Like Catch 22, I think, is one of his earlier movies, and Harold had a hand in raising the funds for that. So this is where I was. All of a sudden, I'm in the middle of my the most amazing place, and for about a year, did a lot of singing and showcasing and having working on my act and how to do this better and how to do that better and all that great stuff. It was magnificent.
And then you were writing, though, all this time.
Hmm.
And your first hit, so to speak, was Tapestry.
It was a hit because it was an underground
Mhm.
hit. It was an FM sensation, that record.
Right.
All the FM guys, there was AM and FM. AM was the top 40, and FM was the guys that talk real soft, and here's
Right.
Don McLean. So
Right.
they played the whole record, the whole album. In fact, I came home from where I was living to see my mom, who I was living in Larchmont, like in our house. And I turned the radio on and I called her. I said, "Look, they're playing the whole record on the radio." It was amazing.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
With American Pie, what made you decide um, to release it over what, 8 minutes? And what was amazing
Well,
is, didn't they play the whole thing on NEW and PLJ, or did they
yeah,
have pushback?
no.
Like, how did that work? Yeah,
Well, American Pie killed my underground career
yeah,
because
I'm sure.
suddenly I'm a hit maker, and that did not square with the FM sound, the FM world. It was a different world.
Ah,
Suddenly I jumped over here, and I have this hot album that's selling millions. It would have been better for me if I'd had like 4 or 5 tapestries before I had this other thing happen. But I had this happen right away, and they just basically took the long song and made a 3-minute record out of it, which became number one. And then they put the album out, and everybody wanted to hear the long version because they all were buying the album. So they'd call up the station, and station would play the LP track in the on the top 40. So the eight and a
wow.
half minute version got there, and then they would put out side one and side two on a single. So you had to play it twice if you listened to it on a jukebox. So everything was rolling for me. It was, and then, well, how do you follow this? Which was the big question. And of course, I couldn't follow it, and I don't think anybody could. But Vincent came out, and all of a sudden, it was a totally different thing, and I had credibility. So that was terrific.
Gosh, Don, where did the idea for Vincent come from? Were you always a fan of his? I mean, what was it? What was happening in your head that you were writing? I'm going to call it poetry, and then you put it to
Well,
music,
I was in
because
a
it really
I was in
resonated. Go ahead.
I was married. I was in a miserable marriage. I was very unhappy. Everybody was, and so the 1970s that were supposed to be so fantastic, I did my job. I made my albums and sang and traveled and did my shows, but there was nothing at home. It was just very troubled. The whole thing was a big mess, and so I guess I had more of an affinity or a sensitivity, I guess, to loneliness or to, again, that pain thing. So I basically loved, everybody loved Van Gogh. When we were growing up, every kid knew about Van Gogh's paintings, of course, and he was probably the most accessible painter, because there was this, again, that the pain of these, even the flowers are, there's poignancy there everywhere, and they're very in your face, so I read this book about him and decided, a little light went off. I said, she would be great to write a song about him, but how am I going to do it? Because you can really
Wow.
do something bad, if you tackle something like that. So what I did was I let the painting tell me how to write the song, and it did. The painting tells me all the words I use, or the and the circularity and the way the music works is all this painting speaking to me.
That's hard for other people to understand. I completely get where you're coming from. I'll look at something and it will inspire me to write something. And I think, does anybody else see that too? Isn't it kind of hard to be thinking like that sometimes when you wonder if anybody else does? Does it make sense?
Well, um, even if they do understand, that they'll probably only understand for that one thing. They'll never really understand the way you think,
Yeah.
because I do a lot of things that people scratch their head and wonder, why would I write a song like Prime Time or Headroom or some song like that? Why would I write a song like Wonderful Baby, or something like that? So, you know, that's the thing about Paul McCartney that's so amazing, is that even though the Beatles went in a lot of different directions, every time you understood what they were doing, they communicated with you directly. Even their lesser known songs are great, and so that's amazing.
Right. I should tell people we were talking about Paul McCartney just before
Hmm.
we actually went on the air. And I think they ought to be doing a series on you. I'm sure there have been, plenty of stories, documentaries, but they need a series on you and how you developed this. And here you are so many years later in your career, still performing.
Hmm.
Um, do you have a favorite song you like to perform,
Well, I have a record I
because I
made.
know you always do American Pie at your concerts. Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
okay, I have to. I want to please the audience. I'm not looking to disappoint them.
Right.
I sing Castles and Crying and Vincent, and just same as Paul McCartney sings, all those Beatles songs, because he wants to make the audience happy. And I can't do the other thing. There are performers out there that massacre their performances. You can't even recognize the song, and that are well, they don't sing the thing at all, anything. They just, and the audience puts up with this. There's a certain masochistic streak in some of these audiences that, oh, don't give me what I paid for, hurt me. But but that's not me.
Hmm.
I like to
Don,
please people.
tell me something about you that most people just would never know. Anything.
I used to be a very pretty competent Western horseman.
Ah,
I know a lot about the West. I know about, not a lot, but I'm constantly involved with learning about things that have to do with the West and cowboys and all their gear and horses, and I know a lot about it. If I watch the rodeo, I know how the horse is rigged, and all that stuff. I like it.
I read that you only wear 501 button fly jeans and you have, well, I told you I did my stuff on you, and
That's so funny.
50 custom Western boots, right? You probably have more than that since that article was written about you.
Yeah, I do wear those pants, and I like buttons. They're good, and I like the boots are really really great. I always have them out. I've got several pair out here, and I've got one, two, three, four, five. I've got 7 guitars out in this room right here where I'm sitting. I like to have them nearby. I pick them up and play them. That's one of the things you need to do if you're a singer and a songwriter and you play guitar, is to keep the guitar out of the case. So you can go over and pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
play it for 5 minutes, whatever, put it back. It's always looking at you and saying, play me. If it's in the case, you don't see it, and then you don't do it.
When do you hear music and when do you write music? Is it late at night? Is it all the time as you're driving or whatever?
I write music whenever I'm in the middle of a project. So
Ah,
if I get two or three songs going, and I can sense that I'm on my way to writing a series of songs of music, then I'll get up every day and I'll have a song idea. Probably in the morning is when I usually. And this phone right here has been very helpful because I just go right away and sing it into the phone, and then when I've got it written, I play it into the phone, and then I email it to my producer, and he'll make a track, and then later on I'll put a new vocal on it, and I'll put my guitar on it, and it's real easy to make a nice record without having to go to the studio. And that's the sad thing about everything, though. The old way of making records required men and women to get in the studio and work and sweat, and suffer and work things out and talk and joke and be right there and oh wow, that was a great vocal performance. Oh, I think I can do another one. Let's roll a tape. That's gone. Now it's all like literally phoning it in. If they're phoning it in, they phone it in, and that's what they used to say was a joke. If somebody was a lousy performer or boring, they say, "Well, he phoned it in." Well, that's what they do. They phone it in now.
who so many performers, such well-known performers have performed your songs. Do you get excited when you hear about that? Like, is there a name of somebody when you heard they did your song, like Elvis, right? Where you're like, oh wow, that's like really cool.
Well, I
Like,
love the fact that this American Pie is this in this Avengers movie. That's the other side of somebody doing your song, is somebody putting the song in another art form or something. That's really exciting. I like it when people sample the song. For example, Drake took two songs that nobody knows I wrote. One song was called "The Wrong Thing to Do," and the other was called "When a Good Thing Goes Bad," and they were from an album called Prime Time, which
yeah.
was one of my least successful albums, but I think one of my most successful songs.
Hmm.
Anyway, he took these two songs and he made a song called "Do It Wrong," and he did a video with Stevie Wonder, and he sold 4 million records. So
Wow.
yeah, so I own a majority percentage of that song as a result of the fact that my lyrics are predominantly used in the song. But you don't really realize how much performers who do all kinds of different music are looking around for inspiration and ideas. And I still think I have ideas. And so that's a really good reason to keep making records.
Well, I guess as they say, the music doesn't die, right? I mean, until you do. So,
Even
honestly,
after.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Look, we're still playing Bach and all the greats, right? By the way, I know you like opera, don't you? You're an opera fan.
I'm not an opera fan, no, but
No.
no, I'm not an opera fan, but I did take some singing lessons with an opera teacher
Ah,
when I was about 12, before my voice changed. And she taught me how to control a tone, how to support a tone so that you're not singing from your throat. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to sing well at this advanced age without having it be all, because your voice only has a certain amount of elasticity to it. And, if you beat it up and you smoke and you drink and you push it all the time, you're going to have at some one point. I mean, Pete Seeger is a friend of mine, but by the time he was 70, he could not sing anymore. His voice
yeah.
would waver around, and he couldn't sing, and it breaks. It'll break. It's not unbreakable. So you have to be careful how you treat it.
What was it like when you were, especially back in the day when like you were everything touring? What was that like for you? Was it
That was
exhausting, exhilarating? What
yes,
was it like?
it was exhausting and exhilarating, and it
Yeah.
was also very empty in a certain way because you had no life. You really had no friends. All your friends were settled, and they were moving on with their lives in a settled, normal, civilized way, and you were this free radical spanning the globe, and singing in all these theaters in all these different countries, and coming home exhausted and not knowing anybody or really what they were up to or anything like that. So you gradually get out of touch with everyone, and it's very hard on relationships, and fame is very hard on relationships, and money is hard on relationships because you're not a regular guy with regular amounts of money. You're a special guy with lots of money, and it just puts you. It sounds like a great thing, but it really, and it is, but it's not. So it's a double-edged sword.
I've heard it time and time again. I heard Harrison Ford speak about that on one of the late night shows. And this is a little while back. And they said, well, you're just a regular guy, aren't you? And he's like, well, not really. I mean, I
Yeah.
am in my soul, but not really. I can't really go anywhere and be a regular guy. I can't just show
No,
up, but
you're.
I can. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Go
think
ahead.
it's like, I think once you've been transformed into a valuable product, which is what happens, that you're really not the same human being you are. There's different DNA. It's almost like you're a rare bird, a swan, or a flower, or a dog, or something. You're not a human being anymore. You're a different species almost. And it's a weird thing to say, but I see it that way. That it's actually, it's you're not part of the old human race the way you used to be anymore. And you better
Yeah.
have a really good reason why you want that. In the case of some people, they want fame because they want to lead people. They want to lead them. They think that they have the answers and they should lead them in a certain direction. Then there are other people who just want to be famous. Like Elvis Presley didn't want to lead anybody anywhere. He just wanted to be as big and ugly famous as he possibly could be, and always be the most and the top and the maximum. And there are guys like that. We know who they are out there who are tremendously successful. They
Hmm.
only play stadiums and they only do all this stuff. So there's different reasons why you might want it, but in my case, and I have to get off right now in a second, I'm sorry to say, but in my case, I didn't want fame. I liked the money. I thought that was really good, but the fame got in the way of a lot of stuff, and but the
Before,
fame helps sell tickets, so you can
before,
thing.
ah, before I let you go, please, will you sing something for me? I don't care if it's mine. You've got to, please, so I can go to sleep tonight and go,
Okay,
oh
can
my
you give me
God, and
that
play it
guitar
and
right
play it.
there? Yeah, I'll just sing you. I have my
Wow, this
guitar.
is really cool. Oh, Don, you've made my year.
Starry, starry night,
Wow.
paint your palette blue and gray. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul. Shadows on the hills, sketch the trees and the daffodils. Catch the breeze and the winter chills in colors on the snowy linen land. A little out of tune, but
Absolutely beautiful. I want to thank you, Mr.
okay.
Don McLean. Thank you. You're on tour, Hollywood star, right? On the Walk of
Yeah,
Fame is coming up too.
16th,
Anything
16th
else
of
you want to
August.
tell my people?
Go to the Don
16th of
McLean.
August. Okay.
Go to the Don McLean YouTube channel, and you'll get a lot of Don McLean if you want him.
Many thanks, much love, and we'll see you at your concert and hopefully at the
Fantastic.
Hall of Fame as well, the
All
star of the Walk
right.
of Fame rather. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I
Thanks for
enjoyed it.
being here.
I'll
Me
remember you
too.
next time.
I hope I
I
hope
will.
so. Okay, much love. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And thanks everybody for joining us today for Deborah Kobylt Live. Wow. What a great thing that was, having Don McLean on our show. I'm just thrilled. I think my engineer is still there. Sean, wasn't that amazing?
Oh my God, so amazing.
Right? I mean, to have him like serenade me. I mean, believe me, I'm going to be putting this out on all my social media. I'm so excited. to have a legend like him even just take the time for us. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here on Deborah Kobylt Live. I'd also like to say we are sponsored by Faherty Brand Clothing and also Harper Collins Books. And if we have those ready, we're going to play those commercials for you. And we will see you again next time on all social media pages, Deborah Kobylt Live. Bye bye.
I love our latest collaboration, Faherty. I'm so obsessed with their products that over the weekend I purchased everything from hats, shorts, sundresses, and even a few shirts for my husband at their Malibu store close to where I live. At Faherty, summer is in their DNA, and everything from their blankets to shorts and tees are beautifully woven organic materials, and that's everything to me. Faherty is about family, and I was so excited to learn that the family who actually started Faherty were from Spring Lake, New Jersey, where I spent so many summers as a kid. And they care about what I care about: simple, top quality clothes for every day, for travel, casual evenings, just the way we live in our family. So please shop FahertyBrand.com and make sure to put in the code DEB20 for your special discount. And happy. I just read the most amazing book, and I'd love to recommend it to all of my viewers and listeners. It's called The Lost and Found Bookshop by New York Times bestseller Susan Wiggs, and it's available now on paperback at harpercollins.com. It is perfect as a summer read by the pool, the beach, the lake, or if you're traveling by plane. So here's the premise. Natalie Harper inherits a financially strapped bookshop in San Francisco after her mother dies. She also becomes the caretaker to her grandfather, and it's books that become a welcome retreat for her grief and tough times. People magazine calls the book a feel-good family saga. I call it incredible. In fact, I felt for Natalie and I wanted to know what else she found inside the pages of those books. The Lost and Found Bookshop is about life's ups and downs and how we get through them. Pick it up at harpercollins.com, and remember, tell them Deborah Kobylt sent you. That's the Lost and Found Bookshop.